So I'm Sophia. I lead community initiatives at Startmate and also the fellowship program. And then we also have Michael here, who's the CEO of Startmate. Hello.
Hello.
So we're really excited to share the Startmate fellowship program with you tonight. I know that Michael wanted to run a poll to get a sense of who was on the call here tonight. But really, we just wanted to share with you what the fellowship's all about. I know that for many of the people that I shared the session with, it was about whether you are right to apply. And so hopefully we will go through that tonight. And really, it's all about you. Like we've got a bit of a presentation that we'll run through, but we want to hear your questions. We're here to answer anything that you might want to ask, and yeah, we'll just kind of go with the flow. Michael, is that poll up and running?
Yep, the poll is up and running, and we're trending with, oh man, so many coming in. So it's roughly 50-50 with I want to join a startup and I just want to hear more. So we don't have any startups hiring in the conversation right now, but it makes sense. But yeah, lots of you just want to find out a little bit more.
Yeah, great.
With 33 people on the call right now.
35. Awesome. Cool. So what we'll start with is I'm going to share a presentation with you. Hold on 1 second.
So as Sophia presents, so her presentation goes for roughly 10 to 15 minutes. You can put all your questions into the chat already. We don't have a Slido going. And what I'll do is potentially interrupt her if it's relevant and just ask her straight away. Or I'm just going to try to coordinate the conversation at the end of the presentation as well. We probably won't take a whole hour, but we do want to answer every single one of your questions. So definitely pop them in there.
Perfect. Cool. Okay, so Startmate Fellowship. So really there's two goals here, and how it kind of came about was.
Oh, Sophia, sorry. I think I just muted you. You just need to unmute yourself. I tried to mute myself.
Can you hear me now?
There we go. We can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So how the fellowship really came about was thinking that the ecosystem as a whole, we recognize that this is really the first generation of startups that are, going global, making their impact after Atlassian. So we've got Canva, we've got safety culture, and kind of that cohort of new unicorns behind that. But really, what there is locally is a bit of a drain on talent, and so the fellowship. There's really two goals here, and from Startup Australia as a broader goal here, it's to help to support them from a talent perspective. So plugging in a really amazing pool of talent to them. And so this program really, it's at the end of it, it's to really for the fellows as well, it's to land them their dream job. And so with those two goals in mind, the program really is about end-to-end finding the right opportunities that we can support startups to fill. And then for fellows as well, we want to land them their dream job. And we want to be able to create pathways for them to get there. And so the goals more for on the fellowship side of things for the fellows coming in is landing their dream jobs. And so really it's targeted at people, for example, your disaffected lawyers, your bankers, your strategy consultants. You've been in corporate for a while. You've kind of moved up the hierarchical food chain. That's great, but you kind of have this itch to do a little bit more. You kind of have a sense of what startups are all about, but this is really an opportunity for you to dip your toe into them and really get a sense of what it is all about. What is that hype? What does it all mean? And then be able to think, okay, cool, this is something for me, and I understand how I can fit into that. So the second part of it, and the second goal here is the personal development.
Just to add a little bit more, just because the fellowship also evolved a little bit, so it's not just for people coming out of corporates. It's very much also for people from hospitality, or if you're in startup already and actually trying to make a complete shift in industry, etc. So we've got plenty of fellows who actually come from all different backgrounds, which is amazing. Straight out of uni, same thing. What we're trying to provide is actually, I think you framed it really well at some point there, Sophia, which was by opening those doors to startup Narnia, which I really like, just like to show you what it's actually like.
Yeah, exactly. And exactly that, Michael. So sure, we've got the more corporate backgrounds, but it's also people that are actively seeking new opportunities and have this kind of interest in the back of their mind about what startups all are about, and want to learn more. And I love the example, particularly right now around hospitality, is in like, particularly with COVID, who are the people that have become recently unemployed or are unsure what to do, and really this is about a pathway of translating the amazing skills and experience that you do have into startup land. And so then this leads into point 2 around personal development. Really, it's okay, who are your core? What are the things that give you energy and that you love doing? And how do we help you translate that into startup environment when you're perhaps used to moving up that corporate hierarchy, or you're used to, you've been in the hospitality industry for 5-10 years and kind of that's kind of all you know. But what are the skills that you've developed through all of these different careers that you've been to, and what does it mean for startups? And also thirdly, and perhaps most importantly, is creating a network for life. And so really it's about opening the doors to the Startmate family, which is broadly speaking our alumni. It's the founders, it's the operators, it's our mentor network, which includes founders that have been there and done that. It includes the mentors that are venture capitalists, investors, they're operators, they've seen it before and are really well positioned to help guide fellows through that journey and plug them into the right opportunities.
Love that. And as I mentioned, I might interrupt you a couple of times because there are some really good questions, particularly what you just covered is the who are our fellows. So the question which came in was, does it matter what age a fellow is?
Not at all. I mean, on the current cohort that we have right now, and this is almost where the magic is as well. So right now we focus on a women-only cohort. I think that from the ecosystem side, obviously we want to help to tackle the gender disparity that exists within tech specifically, and focus on that aspect. But within that itself, we have women from, they've got 1 or 2 years experience through to 15 years experience. They went away, they had kids, and they want to come back into work, and then this is actually helping them to build up their confidence and their skills and know-how to move back into that realm. And so and that's the magic as well. It's not only how many years of experience do people have, that no one is too early and no one is too late at all. It's also anyone from any kind of background. So we have people who have been founders themselves before. We have people that come from a bit of an engineering background, from a strategy consultant background. They've been lawyers. They have run a restaurant before. And that's really the magic of your peer group as well, where you can learn from one another, and the diversity that exists there, where you can really help to think about what is it that interests me, how can we support one another, and how can we generate these ideas together. And that's part of the network for life piece as well.
Another question which came in was students and recent graduates, can they apply as well?
Yeah, I mean, that's I think it's generally interesting, the shift in the ecosystem that we have seen. So I think historically there has been a bit of a reluctance for a few startups to hire graduates because no one had really done it before and knew what to do with them. And I think as a graduate, you're so early in your career that you want kind of best in class learning. You want to know that you are surrounded by leaders that are going to guide you through your journey. And now I think there is more confidence in the ecosystem to actually bring in graduates, and we're massive advocates of really bringing in graduates into startups as well, because actually being proponents of that, it's about as a graduate, you can learn a hell of a lot in a very short amount of time. And it's a really fantastic experience.
Just because a couple more questions come in on the same topic, which is the short answer to that is absolutely. Recent graduates, 100% apply. We definitely want to have you as well. International students, same things, the same questions in there, as well as I think I've seen another question there for final year students, same thing. So just like absolutely, what we're looking for is super ambitious people, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah. For sure. I mean, even at Startmate, we have our intern Jan, who's a second year, Michael. Yeah, and she's awesome. And like that's exactly the kind of person that startups would love to have on board as an intern, and then potentially progress into a full-time role. So yes, please do get on board.
All right, let's keep rolling.
Okay. And so the program as it stands today, and how we look to achieve those goals, and just going back to those a minute. So everything we do is about how do we surround you with a network that is going to land you with your dream job, and also help you figure out, these are the skills and experience that I have, how does that translate into that dream job? And so we run a bunch of AMA sessions, or Ask Me Anything, where we get Australia's best operators, investors, and founders to run a session on a particular topic. So, for example, if fellows are particularly interested in going into product management, let's get some of the best chief product officers in to do a session to actually kind of bust those myths and share what it's all about for people that perhaps haven't done product management before. That's one example. There's the mentorship aspect, so really providing career guidance from, how do you present yourself from a resume and LinkedIn perspective, to how to interview, to then building a community of mentors around the fellows. And so how do you get mentorship from a multitude of angles as part of the Startmate family? The community piece is really important, and it just goes back to as well your peer group. So right now we have 24 women on board. It's really been wonderful to see them in themselves run fellow roulettes. They want to get to know one another. They're running sessions for one another about what their experience has been, and one another helping them to support, finding their dream job and figuring out what they want to do. Internships as well. So trying to provide fellows with as many internship opportunities as possible. So this goes to an important point as well, is that the fellowship right now, it runs well alongside working full-time. So if you think that you want to get involved in startup world, but you're not quite sure you want to leave your job yet, this actually allows you to dip your toe into that world, get a sense of what it's all about. You're pretty sure that you want to do it, but you don't quite know how or why or when. By doing internship opportunities along the way, you can actually learn by doing, and getting involved more in a more hands-on way. We typically have a San Francisco trip. That's had to be remote this time around, obviously with travel restrictions, and we're all stuck at home. So we had 2 weeks of speakers from San Francisco sharing their experience, having come from a more mature ecosystem. In the past, we have actually gone out there for a week and really had an immersive experience out there. But we'll have to see kind of how that plays out long term. And then resources, so just giving access to some learning materials along the way and helping to plug gaps in knowledge of where people are interested in exploring. I'll take a pause. Michael, is there any questions that are coming in that... Oh, you're on mute.
One which I just wanted to clarify, because I saw 1 or 2 questions come in for there. Just to clarify, so the Startmate, we run 2 different programs, which is one, the accelerator, and the other one is the fellowship. The accelerator is for founders and for companies, which is what we've been running for almost 10 years now. And what we're talking about right now is the fellowship. So the fellowship is for people who want to join a startup as an operator. So like a really early stage employee or a bit later stage, but you actually want to join a startup rather than found a startup. So just to answer those questions in here, if you have a prototype ready, apply for the accelerator. Absolutely, that's your stage. If you are a social enterprise founder, we also do take social enterprise founders, but again, just for the accelerator, not for the fellowship. Just wanted to make that one clear. But otherwise, I think we answered all the questions. If we haven't, just pop them in again, and I'll ask Sophia later. Actually, there's one which is relevant to the program there. Apart from AMAs and mentorship, we'll start maybe taking any entrepreneurial classes.
As in...
I guess I can quickly jump in on this one. Sorry, so I think my internet is just a bit bad because I've got really strong wind here. So fellowship was actually more program. It's class environment. It's not university. We don't tell people you need to be in the room for 4 hours listening to somebody. What it is us providing you with lots of resources, and you can plug and play and go with whatever interests you and whatever helps you develop your kind of personal story, career goals, and self-realization almost. So that's, I guess, it. So we don't do necessarily entrepreneurial classes and such. We actually focus on almost self-discovery and finding your kind of bigger goal in life in a way. That sounds very poetic, but like it's very much about like finding your career goals.
Yeah, and I think that is an important point in itself, in that, you know, the fellowship is there to provide you with the framework and the network. But it's certainly not an education program. You know, you're not going to come here and learn how to be a product manager and have that kind of in-depth school of thought around certain aspects. And it's actually more to be driven by yourself. And so if you are someone who is able to take the initiative to drive your own learning and to be resourceful, that's kind of what the type of person it would suit the best. Michael, do you have anything to add to that point?
That's perfect. Let's keep rolling.
Okay,
great questions though. Keep popping them in there.
Great. And so I think it might be useful to just put this into real life terms. And so wanting to give a couple of examples of alumni that have been through the program before. So I don't know if some of you may have tuned into Demo Day last week, and we talked about Nicole's story. But Nicole, she started her background in traditional investment banking, kind of moved through the corporate ladder there, worked on some pretty interesting things, dipped her toes into Startup Land through some time with Reinventure, went back to McKinsey, had some great learnings there, but still had this startup itch. And so she joined the Startmate Fellowship after 3 years with McKinsey, and was still at McKinsey at the time. And through that process, she met Tim Doyle, who was the founder of Eucalyptus. At the time, Eucalyptus is a sort of, it's a little bit hard to explain, but it's a multitude of brands, and one of their brands is a men's telehealth brand. They had their idea for their next brand that they wanted to launch within the women's health space. Nicole did some time with them and kind of helped them conceptualize that a little bit more, and that resulted in Kin Fertility, which is a women's telehealth business delivering contraception. So she actually became the founder of Kin Fertility and the general manager of that brand. And that kind of happened through the process of being on the fellowship, being connected to a bunch of people along the way to help her realize what her true skills were and what it meant in Startup Land. Met Tim, loved what he was talking about. It was a little bit serendipitous in terms of timing. And anyway, helped them come in and advised on what this brand should be, and kind of took it and run with it. And then Zach and Jess, Michael, are you able to give a little bit more information on those two? You're on mute.
Keep muting myself. There we go. Just for everybody on the call, pop your questions in there. This is already our last slide, so then we can answer any more. Yes, yeah, the story there, maybe I'll cover a couple more as well. Like Zach came from a government agency, and she, I think within 3 months after the fellowship, he scored a strategy job at Canva. So now he works directly with the founders there, which is amazing. And now the beauty of that is that Canva came even closer to the fellowship, so they, fingers crossed, will be hiring lots more of our fellows as well. On the other side, Jess, she came from Transurban, so also from a corporate environment, has never really had any exposure to startups, but then got just tried to get her fingers really dirty and worked with so many different startups during the fellowship, just after the fellowship, and then made the jump to San Francisco. So she actually then starting with Lending Home in San Francisco, and she's been absolutely loving that. I guess another really fun story was actually in the second cohort. So this was our first cohort. Actually, in the second cohort, we had 10 fellows. And Eric was a really good example of, we actually kicked the fellowship off with a week in San Francisco. And as part of the fellowship, actually, and as part of the San Francisco trip, he met the company who then literally 6 weeks later, he started working for them as well. It's called Wunderjaunt. It's a startup which raised a couple $1 million, very early stage. But like an incredible growth trajectory. And it was pretty amazing to literally see him, even before the fellowship even ended. I think he relocated to San Francisco already, which is like, I mean, that's the story. Like, not everybody wants to relocate to San Francisco, and we do expose you to so many different opportunities, and it just really depends on where you want to go. So there are a couple of the alumni stories there. Or maybe before we go into some of the questions, just cover, I know we don't have it fully fixed yet, Sophia, but a little bit more about the rough timelines of the.
Yeah, so we're halfway through our winter cohort at the moment. So we, the next one will be our summer cohort, which will run in September, and so applications will open properly in August. But right now you can register online for an expression of interest to be kept up to date with timelines to be more specific and what that process will look like. The process, kind of just to give a little bit of insight and perhaps maybe answering whether this is going to be right for you. You apply online, you're then invited to answer a series of questions which just help to assess what your motivations are and your interest and understanding of the startup world and how we can perhaps help you. And then we run an interview day where you would meet a bunch of the mentors and ecosystem supporters that would be involved and perhaps start to build your network out in that space to assess whether this is going to be the right thing for you. And then there's a final interview, and then you're invited to join the cohort. And that's sort of the process.
Awesome.
Yeah, and at the moment we run it twice a year. And hoping to scale that out.
And actually, maybe what would be really valuable for everybody on the call as well would be just to cover a little bit what happened in this cohort. So maybe some of the sessions we ran and also some of the internship opportunities that the cohort has had already. And I mean, it's only 5 weeks in, so it's still super early. But maybe just talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So what we try to, so the way that we kicked off the program was also sending out a pre-work form to the fellows to really understand what they would like to get out of the program, what they think that they're interested in exploring, and what they think that their I guess superpowers are and what they think that they can plug into, and then creating a program around that. And so the AMAs that we've ran have been, for example, we've had a chief product officer who's ex-Uber and now at Canoe, which is a driverless car startup out in San Francisco, talking about getting into product management. We've had Sam and Tip from Blackbird talking about getting into venture capital. We have had Jesse Summons, who's actually a previous Startmate alumni, talk about the chief of staff role. And so it's really helping fellows to understand, okay, I think I want to do that, but I'm not sure what it actually looks like day to day. This is what it then looks like in the flesh, and being able to ask their questions around, like, what it actually entails for them to actually uncover, is this something that I want to properly explore? So we have the AMAs, and then we a really big focus is around the how we can help to unlock the Startmate network, and ultimately guide you towards opportunities that exist within that network. And it's kind of partly on, okay, what are the opportunities that do exist out there, and what do I think I can do for those companies, and then being able to plug them into that. And the way that we help to support on that is by we have buddies, so we have fellows that have been through the program before that act as so our alumni that act as a support system. We've created pods, so this is your kind of mini group of fellows that you can act as a team to support one another. We have partners that are people, typically like a head of community within a VC. Michael and I are partners as well, and that's really to help unlock our network, to help provide introductions to the fellows, to plug them into job opportunities. I think that, sure, one way to get in front of a company is to apply online, but if we can help to connect you straight to the founder and just cut through that noise, you've got a better chance of standing in the way of a great opportunity, and just we really help to open doors there.
Yeah. And just to finish that part off, so we're 5 weeks in, and a couple of the interns have already. A couple of the fellows have already landed internships. So they're at Inside Sherpa, at Ovira, at Mindset, some of our alumni, as well as some early stage startups. That has been really, really fun to see actually them engage into the Startmate community and our alumni, but also into other companies. All right, so question time. Well, one of the questions in here is how do we apply and where?
Great.
Just cover that off again. Yeah.
So on the website right now, so applications aren't open yet, but please do register an expression of interest, because then you will be notified exactly the day that applications officially open. And it also just helps for us to get a sense of who you are. I think, just as a side note, you're very welcome to add us on LinkedIn and start to connect and start to get to know a little bit more about Startmate along the way. But yeah, register on our website for an expression of interest, and we will be in touch when applications officially open.
Follow Sophia on Twitter.
Follow me on Twitter. Follow at Startmate.
I think we're into a bit slow. There we go. I'm back again. And another question here was, do you have any advice as to applications and submitting a good application?
Do your research. I think, a couple of things that works as like fellows that do come onto the program is ability to take the initiative. What I mean by that is there's a general thirst for learning and hunger to kind of uncover what is out there. And that leads into curiosity. So show to us that you have tried to tap into what startup world is all about and why you're interested in exploring it, and kind of how you think your skills can translate. And it's fine if you don't know. So for example, I think a really classic example of what we've seen come in through applications is, okay, you've been a lawyer for 5-6 years, you don't want to be a lawyer anymore, you kind of like the idea of startups, and then people come to the program and go, yeah, I'd like to be an in-house lawyer of a startup. It's actually being able to think about it a little bit more creatively and go, actually, as a lawyer, what I've learned is, and what I enjoy, and that's an important point to make as well, what are the things that give you energy and that you enjoy, is I'm really able to get to the core of a problem very quickly. I'm very analytical. I have excellent stakeholder management skills in that I can talk to anyone and everyone and kind of circulate my ideas. And therefore, I think that potentially something like product management could be of interest, but I'm not sure. As well, the chief of staff role could be of interest, and this is why X, Y, Z. And so you kind of have a bit of an idea of where you can fit in, but what the program can really help you do is to crystallize that. and to actually see it in real life and then amplify your learnings and supercharge that process.
My little tip for applications is that we use an anonymous platform. So we don't know who is applying, which is really fun for us because at the end it just pops out the top like 30 or 40 candidates, and that's who we consider for the program. So knowing that, just make sure that you've got a really clear and structured answer. So because that's the way we read them, and also don't connect answers to each other because we review them as one standalone answer. So all the different questions, actually, they're separate. So that would be my tip here. Another question came in through, do we have the same session for the accelerator program as well? There was this morning, but if you email me, I can forward you that recording as well. All right. If you have a startup idea in the hospitality industry, will the fellowship help me to land a temporary spot in a hospitality startup? Is that how it works? Just quickly on this one. So if you have a startup idea and you actually want to have a startup, that's the accelerator side of things. But if you genuinely want to have a bit more experience in a startup and working for a startup, that's exactly what the fellowship does. We actually will help you get a job in a startup. And if it's just hospitality, that's perfect. We'll actually specifically target that as well. So that's exactly what the fellowship is designed for. Great question here. Does everyone who participates in the fellowship land a job in the startup? Yeah, you go for it.
That's the goal, but it's also, I think that's where it comes down to the ability to take the initiative. And as Startmate, and I think this is true for the accelerator as well, we're not there to handhold and to act as, I guess, personal recruiters for you. We're there to open doors, and we're there to provide opportunities and learnings along the way. And so I guess if your intent is there and you kind of drive that yourself, and we really help you to support that, I mean, that is the goal. The goal is to land you your dream job, but that's partly on you, and then we're there to support and unlock.
Yeah. So just to give you an example, so it is very much your journey. So it's also like, we're not going to give you a job. You actually need to get the job yourself. In the first cohort, though, out of the 6 fellows, every single one of them is now in a startup and working there. Out of the second cohort, out of 10 fellows, we have out of the current 25 fellows, a couple of them received offers already. They all decided to not make the decision quite yet because they're only 5 weeks in, but it's super exciting to see as well.
Yeah, and quite a lot of them have internships as well already, and looking towards what that will, and then halfway through processes for jobs as well. So that's good.
What would be some of the key skills that fellows take away from the program? Or would you say it's more about working out how you can apply existing skills to the startup world?
It's a bit of both. I think if I start with the latter about applying existing skills, it's helping you to, I think if you're particularly used to moving up a corporate ladder where you've got to have X amount of years ticking boxes and moving up, it's actually being able to think a little bit more laterally with it and a little bit more creatively with it, and kind of getting and unblocking that and getting used to actually thinking that's not sort of how it works in startup land.
It's less about hard skills, so it's not really like we'll teach you how to code, but it's on the other side. It's actually we connect you with people and you can ask them anything. So you will be learning parts about just even how to talk in startups. On the other side, what let's say consumer marketing is from, for example, Tim Doyle, or what a chief of staff does. So it's more of like a self-finding thing rather than on the hard skill side of things, I'd say.
Yeah, and of course, like, I mean, I believe that you learn something from everybody that you meet, and the magic as well that we're seeing, particularly right now. Like it's really wonderful the cohort, how they're helping one another to learn, and yeah, that's really great to see.
Question from Stephanie in here: can we submit video intros as an application? just a quick one in here. For the accelerator, we have a 3-minute video, and for the fellowship, it's an anonymous application of 4 questions. So that's pretty straightforward there. If we do get selected, is there an option to defer to the next cohort? Great question.
Yeah, so that happened last time. So we had someone that was accepted, and actually she was saying, "Oh, I've just started this new project at work. I don't know if I can actually commit the headspace to it. Not necessarily the time, because it's meant to work alongside whilst working full time as well. But it was just a little bit too much, and just said, "Hey, like, I'm gonna offer you a spot on the next cohort. You're amazing, and we definitely don't want to lose you." So, yeah.
Totally. And awesome question, Gemma. Could you provide more detail about the format and logistics? Can we tailor ourselves, the program ourselves around working full time? How is it remote versus in person, and the time of day?
Yeah, I mean, everything is obviously remote right now, which has, we've really tried to lean into that. In thinking about how do you build a community in a digital world. So I guess how we kicked off the session was actually, how do we view this as a really positive thing where you can actually build a community outside of everything that's going on and support one another through this. Now, that's meant that there is a little bit more flexibility in how we do run sessions. So sure, some are at breakfast time, lunchtime, in the evening. It's kind of got to depend on what the world will allow us to do at the time. But again, all sessions are optional. It's on you to drive, and everything is available. We've got a resource library for that to be available if you're not able to attend one of the sessions, but you really want to catch up on them.
And also, just for the working full time, every session is recorded as well, so you can watch it afterwards as well. So it's super flexible that way. So absolutely. Am I eligible if I have previously worked in a startup? This is from Ryan. But yeah, that's a very quick and easy answer.
For sure. Got a couple of those.
Absolutely. So like, pretty much everybody is eligible as long as you're awesome and you want to work in a startup.
Nicole, that we gave the example for before, who had started off investment banking, she went to Reinventure, which is one of the VC funds, loved it, but it was only going to be a short-term thing. I think she signed a short contract, and then went to McKinsey, had a great time there, and then kind of wanted to go back. And there's on the current cohort, there is, I think, 5 or 6 that, I mean, a couple have actually been founders themselves. So for sure.
Awesome. A question from Mark, which is, during those special times right now, do we see more or less startups looking for help? And do we also help startups place interns?
Looking for help as in looking for employees?
Yeah, so I guess the question kind of goes back to if people are hiring and not hiring. So that's kind of like, maybe I can take this one, which is quite interesting. So some of the startups, I mean, obviously in, like, let's say the travel industry or hardware startups, which had the supply chain disrupted, they are definitely pulling back on hiring. Whereas on the other side, we have also many of our Startmate alumni who are doing really well, because some of those macro trends just get accelerated, especially if you are a global from day one business, which is a software solution. Like, they are doing really well, getting term sheets from nowhere and raising lots of money, so they're still hiring. The second part of the question was, do we help startups place an intern? Yeah, totally. So actually the fellowship, or our job really, is to take awesome fellows and to find those great startups and then just to connect them. So we help startups who are looking for interns as well to actually place those fellows there as well. So I really hope that answered your question, Mark. All right, next one up here is, have people found the co-founders during the fellowship?
Nicole Lou?
Well, yeah, so actually Nicole, I guess she joined Eucalyptus, which is a startup, and then founded Kin, which is one brand under the Eucalyptus brand. So she actually did that. But the question with finding co-founders is a really good one, where we are only 3 cohorts in, And we have seen so many different things come out of the fellowship. So I am actually pretty hopeful, and I'm actually pretty confident at some stage people will also found companies off the back of the fellowship as well. So no, it hasn't happened yet, but I totally don't see why not.
And I think that's actually a really wonderful thing. If we provided you an introduction with one of the cohorts that was going through an accelerator, a lone founder who was kind of wanted something and doing well, that wanted someone to join them at that stage, how wonderful would it be if we were able to connect in a fellow into one of our founders on that program as well. So yeah, that would be awesome.
All right, we're coming to the end of those questions. So we've got a couple more in here, which is maybe I'll save this one for the end. Is there a limit on the number of people who get the fellowship?
So the way that we thought about it last time was we had a rough, because we'd gone from 6 to 12, we kind of had a rough-ish number of where we thought we'd get to, but it was very much based on merit. And so like I didn't have a hard just 20 places. It was, if you are amazing, we will make space for you. And that's how we just generally think about it.
Totally. So I think as a general rule of thumb, what happened in each one of the fellowship, well, actually the first one was quite different because it was legit trial of like, can we make it work with 6 people, is that we roughly take the top 10% of people. So it really just depends how big the interest there is and what types of people we find. In this cohort, I think we had 300 applications, and then we took 24 fellows, so just below 10%. And we are pretty open towards the number of people as well. All right. All right. So then Michael Spicer can't wait to hear if it's available in New Zealand.
Oh, yeah.
So I guess this is one which we are still working on, where we're only halfway through this cohort, which is all Melbourne as well as Sydney based. But now that it's all running virtually, there's no reason why the next one wouldn't be open to startups around. And we actually just don't know. Still waiting for feedback from the fellow cohort, from the startups. There's still quite a bit of time until our next fellowship in September. So we haven't quite made the decision yet. So yeah, definitely sign up the newsletter, follow Sophia on Twitter, and we'll definitely let you know.
Yeah. I mean, one of our fellows actually right now was in New Zealand, was going to come. Her and her family were looking at relocating over to Melbourne anyway. Ended up staying in New Zealand because of COVID, and she's doing it remotely from there. So that's been fine. And Startmate, on a general note, is building presence out in New Zealand. So the cohort will be launching there in the next couple of months.
Awesome. All right. And then just going back to the question which I saved for the end, which is what happens at the end of the fellowship?
It's like some ceremony. I mean, there is a wrap-up session, and really it's about, like, after the 3 months, have we achieved those goals? Have we helped you really be in a position to understand what you want to do and be across as many opportunities as possible to be able to land your dream job? Do you want to? I mean, because I've only been at Startmate for a couple of months now.
Yeah.
The end of the fellowship look like?
Yeah, so the end of the fellowship, I mean, I would actually say the fellowship as well as the accelerator is actually never really over. We have the structured programming, which is for a 3-month period, which is almost just like a fake time period where 3 months is long enough for you to figure things out, but it's not.
Mm-hmm.
3 months is, but then what I'm saying is that you are as part of our community for life. So you will always be part of it, and you can always engage, and she will support you for the years to come as well. All right. Interesting question from JJ in here, which is, say you apply for the accelerator and the fellowship, and you receive an offer from both. What happens then? That has never happened before. I really hope it does happen. We will get there when we will decide when you get there. But I mean, I'm happy to accept you into both programs. It's very unlikely though, because for do you look for founders last mission, whereas for the fellowship we look for people who want to join a startup. So the types of people applying would be usually quite different. Awesome. Alrighty, Mark, based on previous experience, would you guys mind naming one candidate that impressed you the most and why? Oh man, this is recorded, we can't do that. But seriously, every single one of our fellows is amazing. So even just a couple of alumni stories, which you heard earlier, there are a couple of really easy told stories where the fellows transitioned from the corporate jobs, made huge leaps into startups, moved countries, and joined startups from like 5 people big to 100 people big, or like I'm in Canada now, 1,000 people big, and just made those leaps. And they're amazing. Like honestly, the cohort right now, 24 fellows, like every single one of them just blows my mind, and it's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing that is, I guess, stand out is when fellows are very clearly taking initiative to drive their own learning and seek out opportunities, and like they found someone that they think would be awesome to do an AMA. They've somehow out of nowhere got 4 internship opportunities, and that's really kind of been driven by them seeking out people that they want to talk to. And so as part of this, you join the Startmate family Slack group, where you've got access to how many members, Michael?
I think we've got 450 members on there now. Yeah.
And that's alumni, so founders, it's our mentors, which are founders themselves, operators, investors. You know, that's there for you to reach out to and to drive conversations as well, and use that as your own network. And that's something that works really well.
Yeah, which ties in really nice with the last question in the chat, which is from Dan, which is how do you stay connected with the Startmate family? Which is exactly that. Like the primary mechanism is actually our Startmate Slack group, which is super active. You've got every VC in the country in there. You've got every single one of our alumni. We've got all of our mentors in there, and and all of our fellows obviously as well. So it's actually really, really fun. There's just so much going on there, and everybody's super responsive, which is awesome. All right, well, that brings us to the end of the session. All of the questions answered. I really hope we were able to do that. You can hit us up anytime. I posted Sophia's email address in there already. Mine is michael@startmate.com.au. And yeah, express your interest on the website. Hit us up on email. Hit us up on Twitter.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Thanks everyone for coming along tonight, and hope to hear from you soon.